Hi, my name is Korey McMurtrey. I am a recent graduate of Code Louisville's PHP backend track, and I also completed their front-end track earlier this year. For my PHP project, I created a website that is a collection of web development resources that I found useful. My goals with PHP were to use most of the common database operations. So I wanted users to be able to create new websites in the database, display different views of those websites depending on user selections, edit existing websites information, and be able to delete those websites from the database. And I believe I achieved all of these goals. So this is the main view of my website. There's a nav bar, a footer, the list of websites in the middle, a category sidebar. Some of the features at the top is a new website button that by filling out this form and submitting it, you can add a new website to the database that will then be displayed. Each of the websites has a few buttons associated with it. You can vote for any of these websites. So if I wanted to vote for jQuery as one that I liked, I would just click the vote button, and that would then increase to 5. You can also edit any of these. So if you click on edit, it will take you to the same form as new website, except the fields are filled in with the information about that website. Then you make your changes, hit submit, and it will update. And you can also delete any of the websites. So the delete button first goes to a confirmation modal just to make sure that's what you actually wanted to do. At the bottom is some pagination. So right now there's 5 items per page and we have 3 pages. So I can go to page 2, page 3, and back to page 1. There's also a few different ways to sort the websites. You can sort by category, so here's all the CSS items, all the PHP items, and you can also sort alphabetically and by least popular, which arranges them by vote count, and also by most popular, which arranges them by vote count but from highest to lowest. And here's a look at the code. The code is written in plain PHP with Bootstrap to do just some simple styles, and with a MySQL database with 2 tables to handle the data. The main PHP files and the CSS and JavaScript are in this public folder. There's a source folder that has my 4 classes, and they're in a web dev resources namespace. The vendor files that are pulled in from Composer. And then there's a views folder that has my HTML templates for the different views of the website. And those just use a base HTML that's on all the pages that has the nav bar, the footer, the header, things like that. And then there's a different template for each of the 3 main pages, the index, the edit page, and the new page. But the main thing I want to talk about is my classes, because I feel like that's the main thing I learned towards the end of the Code Louisville course. Initially my PHP was just scattered all throughout my PHP files, and it was really hard to find anything and keep track of it. But at some point I finally picked up how to write a class, that could create an object, and then how you could do some object-oriented programming based on that. So my main class is this website data class, and it contains most of my SQL queries for manipulating the website data and displaying it on the page. So on instantiation, it will connect to the database. One of the first functions here is a getWebsites function, which gets a list of the websites from the database using a SQL query. There's a getWebsitesCount, which gets the number of websites in the database. GetAllCategories, you get all the categories from the database, which is used in the category sidebar and also in the form. AddWebsite function, which lets you add a website to the database. And most of these SQL queries use PDO with prepare and execute statements. So here I prepare to insert into the websites table the following data, and I want to insert these values using named parameters. So right after that I define those parameters with this array based on the post data from the form, and then I execute it. And then I do the same thing for the other table, which keeps track of the votes. And I do the same thing, prepare an insert statement, and then execute it. And then there's a few more functions. You can get a website by ID, so just get a single one for editing. You can update a website, which is the edit button. You can delete a website, which is the delete button. And then the last few are related to sorting the websites in various ways. And the main function here, sort vote, is based on two big if statements. The first condition is whether or not the category was passed through, so if you're sorting by category. And then there's a couple more if statements within each one of whether you selected to sort by least popular or sort by most popular. And then it prepares and executes the correct statement. The next class is for the pagination, which has all the functions related to determining how many websites and which ones to display on the page. So it keeps track of the current page you're on, the total number of websites to display, the websites per page, and the total pages. Here's a couple of functions to get the starting website and get the ending website. And you can also get the subset of websites that will actually be displayed on the page based on all the ones that have been selected. My votes class is what handles all the logic for updating the vote count, and that's pretty straightforward. It connects to the database, and it just simply checks for whether the ID of that particular website was passed through by clicking on the vote button, and if so, it runs the add vote function, which does a prepare and execute statement to update the votes table and update the count by 1. And my last class is my template class, which is what renders the different HTML templates on the page depending on what the user has selected. And just to see how I used all these, my index.php file, which calls in the main view of the website, I use Composer's autoloader. Here I instantiate my website data, paginator, and votes classes. I run some of the necessary functions that I need, so I check to see if a website ID is present for voting, and I get the start and ending websites to be displayed and the list of all the websites to be displayed, as well as the categories for the sidebar. And then I instantiate the template class as well so that it will render the correct view. And that's all of the code. Thanks for looking at my project. The next feature I want to implement is a login system. This will allow multiple users to create and edit websites in the database. It will also help improve the voting functionality. Currently, you can vote for a website as many times as you want, which is not the way I want it to work, but a login system would help limit that to voting once per website per user, which makes a lot more sense. Looking past this project, I'm excited to build my next website with the PHP framework, either a micro framework or maybe dive right into Laravel. Now that I've completed an entire project in vanilla PHP, I found I can understand the documentation on the PHP frameworks much better than I could at the beginning of the track. Professionally, I'm looking for a job as a web developer. Having completed both the front-end and PHP tracks, I've started looking for and applying for web development positions here in Louisville. My name is Korey McMurtrey, a graduate of the PHP track, and thanks for watching.